Hello, everyone. Welcome to my demo. This is my AI governance knowledge base. It's wired into Pinecone for vector search, S3 for evidence, and a Pinecone Assistant via MCP for deeper context. Now, I have two modes here that I'm going to demonstrate for you. One is a RAG demonstration mode, and then the other is the MCP demonstration mode using a Pinecone Assistant. So we'll go ahead and start with this, where you can ask it which control covers MFA, and with this, we should see a result here. And this is the answer as far as this is being actually pulled from my own control library that's embedded into Pinecone. So even though this is showing two different sides of it, they both are using Pinecone. So this is using the Pinecone vector, as you see here. So SOC 2, NIST 853, ISO 4201, and some internal policies can be pulled here just for demonstration purposes. But if you're looking for production, again, you can use all of these particular frameworks to use in your knowledge base. So this is not Chat GPT guessing, it's my own grounded corpus. Okay. Now, as you see here, once that result generated, you see three different sections: retrieve chunks, evidence references, and evidence and debug keys. Okay, so I'll just show you the retrieve chunks, excuse me. And you'll see here control IDs for each of these. And I do apologize, I am doing laundry. You'll see the frameworks as well. So this is SOC 2, this is NIST 853, ISO 2701, okay? And you'll see similarity scores here as well in the retrieve chunks from my Pinecone vector database. So you are able to see exactly which controls were used with scores, which is giving an audit grade retrieval. Okay. And people, this is not vibes. This is actually happening right now. So just letting you know, this is definitely happening right now. Now, here's the other cool tool about this. I have a snapshot audit log. Okay. Now, with this, you'll just click this, right? And every question and answer would create an immutable JSON entry in S3 with the vector IDs, okay? Similarity scores, redacted queries, and evidence references, okay? If a regulator ever asks, how did the AI decide this? Right now, you have a tamper evident answer, okay, that you can find here in your S3 bucket right on down here. This is the latest and greatest that we just did. So I can just go to this, um, download it and open it up here. And I'll just use Visual Studio Code. And what you see here is all of the testing that I've done, but each new file will have, the previous Q&A that was submitted to this S3 bucket, okay, for evidence. So this is the latest and greatest right here, okay? And as you see, you have your queries, your query redacted, the PII findings, injection, prompt injection, any triggers, the confidence, scores. You have also the framework. So everything we pretty much just picked up On the front end, the model used. So you can see, behind the scenes, Anthropic Claude is being used for this model here. And you have your hash files, your hashes, excuse me, to, again, let your auditor know, these files are evident proof and immutable. Okay. So let's go back to here to the demo. And now that I showed you the evidence, or I'll just, ask another question, because now we want to use a control that does map to my JSON file, so my local JSON file, which is evidence mapping. So I'll just put here, show evidence for CC6.6. And sorry, I should have done that, but we're just going to do this. We're going to click the Ask button. And as you see here, I'm going to scroll down to the evidence references. There's nothing right now, but just to show you that, I'm not just answering, right? What does the control say? It's actually linking it to the actual artifacts, screenshots, reports, PDFs that are in that S3 evidence bucket. Since this is just a demo, this would pull, let's say, an assessment. So that's going to be the next phase, where you'll see an AWS Audit Manager assessment, and it can pull that from the S3 bucket. Or if you got an assessment and you want to, upsert it to the vector database, you can do that, and it will just reference that evidence there that you have. So this UI uses presigned URLs already, right? So evidence just never leaves my environment at all. All right. So, and with the evidence debug keys here, behind the scenes, the app joins Pinecone's metadata with an evidence map and S3 keys. So for a client, each assessment, each provider, each region can have its own evidence set, and none of the code changes behind the scenes. Okay. And then, and again, you can add this as a snapshot to the S3 bucket that I showed you before. Okay. And before I go to show you the Pinecone Assistant, the other thing is to show you that I have a rule in the event bridge. So as you see here, I'll just refresh. As you see, I have matched events, invocations. We have end-to-end latency. So here you go. Here's the event bridge, and you can create additional rules if you want, but this was just a general rule I created in my lab, just to show you that how event bridge can be tied to this, right? So now let's go ahead and try Pinecone Assistant, right? And we're going to ask Pinecone. So now with this, and this can be for the KB RAG as well. So now all of your policies, all of your, SOPs, all of those standards, baselines, whatever it is, instead of it being held simply in your SharePoint repository, or any repository that you're using, it doesn't have to be SharePoint. But we know some of our teams, in order to access documents we need in order to do certain tasks or follow certain procedures, we know they're just stored, and we have to pull them out, open them up, and kind of search the document for what we need. So this helps so that you do not need to do that. And again, not all environments may have some type of chatbot tool possibly on their general web page. So maybe, again, I'm just going to use SharePoint, for example, a SharePoint site, and it has a chat. It could have a chat bot on it if anyone doesn't have it right now. And that should be able to pull from your RAG database, or it can be your MCP agent doing the work behind the scenes for you, where anyone in your company can ask, hey, what is the BYOD rules, right? Or your infrastructure team who's looking to implement a new, let's say, tool, to push a new tool out or whatever. And they can definitely come here and look for it. If you're looking to understand if privileged access, for example, for privileged users or anything like that. Does the GRC teams pretty much can load their documents into the KB RAG or the Pinecone Assistant, and that would better help address any of the questions, or again, a general governance, AI governance, or just governance in general for your company. Okay. So now that we have this next question for Pinecone, the Pinecone Assistant that I have here, as you see here, it's querying Pinecone. And what I did with Pinecone, just to give you, more info, I have a lot of different framework documents. So, that's something that you would want to do. You would want to add, documentation from different frameworks, again, assessments, policies, standards, baselines, anything, when it comes to the governing of your company's environment, you would put them into the backend DB, or again, your vector. And this assistant would pull that information for you. And as you see here, your assistant has answered that question and gave you a summary. And again, this doesn't have any retrieved chunks, but with this, you can still have this mapped to controls in your environment. Because maybe you're looking to implement AI in some way, and it can pull this information and show you the evidence that you already have in your environment, and show you the frameworks and everything that it's mapped to as well. So just to show you, this mode hits my Pinecone Assistant over the model context protocol. Okay, it's using the same knowledge base you saw in the playground. So the NIST, ISO, SOC reports you see on the, you see on the right in Pinecone here, it will be the same thing. So the RAG mode is deterministic and explainable. The assistant mode is more conversational and analytical. Okay, for execs and auditors, I can choose the right level of abstraction without changing the backend. So that's the beauty of this particular tool. Okay, now I'll go ahead and snapshot that again to show that even MCP answers can be logged to S3 with the same JSON structure plus a hash. Okay. Now, just to reiterate again, okay, so right now I'm ingesting curated controls and a small evidence map. The next step is direct AWS Audit Manager or Azure Policy Assessment ingestions, and that's going to be via an API. Okay, so that's actually in the works right now, just so that people can use this even for their assessments based on what I, kind of went over earlier, and what you just seen that this tool can do. So each assessment will get its own assessment ID in Pinecone. So then you can ask it questions like, show me CC.6 for the 2025 Q1 AWS assessment in US East 1, okay? Or compare CC 7.2 between Azure and AWS without changing anything in the app. So that's what makes this ready, okay? So again, governance always breaks at the same place, which is validation. Controls have been living in PDFs. Evidence lives in random S3 buckets, and every audit is a copy paste marathon. So nobody can answer in real time which control covers this risk and where is the evidence. And that's what this tool is here to help resolve for GRC professionals or just security professionals in general. Okay. So I built this knowledge base, this governance knowledge base that turns your control library and assessments into searchable systems of records. Okay. So again, Pinecone stores control, text, and assessment findings as vectors. Streamlit, and that's what I'm just using now. It's a local version, but I'm using Streamlit. And again, they can be pushed to an S3 web page as well, but this is just for demonstration purposes. But Streamlit would provide the clean UI for the auditors, right? And for engineers, okay? The S3 is the evidence vault, as you see here. This is all your evidence. And you can definitely, have your evidence set up differently. And this also will pull the assessments if you're creating them inside AWS, like SOC 2 assessments, for example. That SOC 2 assessment will be dumped right into here. And with this tool will still be able to read that information. And again, as the evidence reference here, it will pull that information from the S3 bucket or from my Pinecone vector database and would be presented there for you. Okay, so the Pinecone Assistant via MCP handles deeper questions and narrative explanations. Okay, so as you see here, this is basic, but this can go a little bit deeper for you or your team. Excuse me. So in plain language here, ingest and index, controls and policies are embedded, right? And push to Pinecone with metadata like framework, control ID, and soon I'll do another demo showing you assessment ID when we're talking about your assessments. And again, my goal is to use the API and pull straight from AWS or straight from Azure and have that ingest into Pinecone as well, right? So evidence objects and S3 are mapped to controls or direct metadata. Okay, you have a query and retrieve as well. So we just queried and we retrieved, and again, the chunks will be shown here. Okay, so a user asks natural language questions in the app. The system then redacts the PII, and that's what you've seen in the JSON file. Injection attempts. It queries Pinecone, and then it returns the most relevant controls and findings. Okay. Then number 3, we have evidence and auditability. Okay, the app joins vectors to the S3 evidence via keys or metadata, which would be displayed in the evidence section here. And it would show a ground answer, citations with control IDs, clickable evidence links as well. So those links can be given to your auditors for easy assessing or easy to see what evidence that is. And again, I know auditors have to test sometimes, so this would be a great way for them to just ask questions. You can send them your link, right, and let them ask questions and pull that information that they need as well. So simultaneously, it writes JSON audit logs to S3 and then returns a hash. So assistant mode in MCP. So when a user wants broader explanations, again, as we did, with show evidence for CC 6.6, or what does NIST require for AI risk, right? Or how does MFA fit into SCADA? Things like that. The Pinecone Assistant is called over the MCP. So that agent uses the same document set, but can reason and summarize at an executive level. Okay. So here's the value. You can have faster audits, which no more where's that doc chaos. Okay, so we're now cutting the where's the doc chaos that we've experienced out there. And it's ready, partner ready. So you get your own namespace, right, using Pinecone. Now, I could have configured this within AWS because AWS has Amazon Bedrock, which has a RAG, setup and knowledge base there, and you could still use Pinecone. But I built this all locally and pushed it to GitHub. So some of you will see the GitHub link, so you can take a look at that. But this is just to show you that you can have your own evidence bucket, and you can have different evidence buckets and different namespaces as well for those different evidence buckets if you like. So maybe you want to split it up by department, right? Infrastructure. Because sometimes when we're getting audited, some things that are not in the cloud, like that are still existing locally, are getting audited as well. So you can still set up different types of namespaces to pull in that evidence in the same app. Okay. So you can tack on direct AWS, Azure assessment ingestion, and charge for continuous assurance, not just static consulting. All right, so thank you guys for watching my video and demo here. I hope you guys liked it. I will be getting this deployed, the app perspective, and also, if anyone wants to contact me to talk more about this particular lab that I've done, please go ahead and reach out to me on LinkedIn. And thank you guys for tuning in. Have a great day.